with City of Tampa Visual Arts Department. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to show you how to make a fabric collage. Supplies you'll need for this project are a pencil, a permanent marker or fabric marker. You'll also need a pair of fabric scissors. I really like to have a pair of thread scissors on hand or just some small scissors. Of course, you'll need some glue to stick everything down with. All-purpose glue works just fine. If you have any fabric glue or PVC archival glue, go ahead and use that. It can keep stuff nice and flexible if you plan on adding it to something else later. And then of course you'll need a brush to apply your glue. I really like a stiffer brush. It's easier for pushing the glue around. Then you'll need a surface to glue all your fabric to. You'll want something sturdy. I had a canvas that I was able to use. You can also use a heavy watercolor paper or poster board works well for this project. Just be careful because they might warp a little bit while the glue is drying. And then of course, last but not least, you will need lots of colors of fabric, assorted patterns and styles. So for this project, I decided to do a still life. I put together fruits and veggies and squashes and took a couple pictures. I used a little viewfinder to decide what composition I liked the best. Create a little sketch for what you're going to apply your fabric to. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want the main shapes that I want to be cutting out of my fabric. The fabric is going to give all the texture and depth of color here, so your sketch is going to be completely covered up later, so don't worry about making mistakes. When you start laying down your fabric, you're going to want to work from your background to your foreground. So remember that your background is what is furthest thing away in your composition. So if this was a landscape and I was doing something where I had the sky in there, I would start with my sky in the background. For this project, I've got my little black background that I did for my still life, so I'm using some polka dot fabric that I found. That was the blackest fabric that I had. It had some little white polka dots. I flipped it on its back and it's even darker. So remember that you have two sides to all of your fabric. And I am gluing my little pieces down and wrapping them around the sides. So I'm trying to find pieces that kind of already fit in the section that I want to glue them down to. First I'll guess a little bit on what shape they need to be, make it a little bit bigger, and then trim it down. And you can use both sides of your fabric. So for all these shapes on my pineapple, there's so many little sections to it, right? So I decided I'd have 3 or 4 different kinds of fabric that I was using to create those shapes. So I did a dark green. It was like a mermaid pattern in the background for my dark line that are outlining all my little shapes. I made all my little pineapple sections with another fabric. So I've got backside pattern ones, and then I cut out another shape to make the little half highlight that was on the bottom of each of these little pineapple sections. And then I used another fabric that was a little bit darker to make the little spikies, the little spinies that come off of it. And then moving on to my pineapple leaves. Again, I was using any fabric that was kind of close. Like there's pink in that fabric that I'm using, but that's alright. It's close enough. It's got the greens in there, so I've got my green pineapple leaves. And again, this is where those little fabric scissors come in handy. They cut around curves, especially when I'm gluing down the fabric and cutting away the excess sides. The easiest way I found to make all my shapes fit was to add glue to my little drawn section that I knew that I was going to add the fabric to, stick on my small piece of fabric, and then use my scissors to cut away the excess up to the line where it was going. And remember, you don't have to use the exact colors and textures that you see in your real image because we're using fabric. It's not going to be realistic. It's more fantastical, a little bit surrealist, definitely cubist. If you have any sheer tools or laces, those are really nice fabrics to use to overlay on top of your fabrics you've already put down, and that can add another layer of depth or highlights to different sections. I really liked having my fabric wrap around the edges, and I just used the same glue to lay everything down flat. So if you've got areas that are kind of fraying and splitting off the sides, you can trim them, use a little bit more glue to lay it down. You can incorporate other materials into this. Maybe you add some magazine clippings, maybe you add some photos, maybe you add a section where you have just drawn everything. Another thing to do is to just draw in the background and add your fabric on top. Anything is possible. Thank you for watching this video. Please share with us what you're making at Tampa Parks Recreation.